Hello and welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host and city manager, Doug Bartosh. And I'm here today with our vice mayor, Kyla Allen. And it's about that time of year, actually it's a little later than we usually do it, where we talk about the citizen satisfaction survey that was completed in 2017. And we've compiled all the data and thought we would share it with everybody and give you an idea of what people are thinking about. But first, I thought it would be good, and the reason Kyla's here is she really managed this process ever since 2010 when we first started doing the citizen satisfaction survey. And so I thought maybe she could give us a little bit of history of what the past surveys were like, because we changed it up a little bit this last year, which I think probably gave us some information, but I'm not sure it served us as well as we would like to see it. So tell us a little bit about the history.
The history, we started in 2010. It was the first community survey, satisfaction survey that we put out. We had a really good response that year. What we aim for is 10% of what we send out. I remember we sent out, 11,000 surveys and got over 1,000 back. So we had a really good response. The really neat thing about these surveys is they give us a real good picture of what the public perceives the city as, what we're doing good, what we're doing not so well. So the first one we got about 1,000. 2012 we got just short of 10% because we sent it out to 9,369 homes and we got 890 back. 2014 we did make our 10% return rate, just over it. We sent it out to 9,000 homes and got over 900 back. So it's been a very good tool for the city. We've learned a lot of what we need to work on, and it's really rewarding for the departments that see that they're scored highly. So it's just a great tool for the city. You know,
and then in this last year we sent out, let me see what the number was here. I think we sent out 9,200 and had a return rate of 3.8, and which was a little disappointing, but probably understandable from the standpoint that this was a much more detailed, long survey that people probably looked at it and said, well, I don't want to fill this out. Right.
If you look at the response over the last couple of years, the other surveys, this was a summary, and this year, or 2017, this is the summary, several pages worth. So I think some of our public just they said, oh, it's just too many questions, I'm not going to answer that, even though it's a great tool. We did have some individuals out there saying, don't answer it, which was a little frustration. It's during an election year and they thought the city was trying to do something funny, who knows what. And they were telling people not to answer the survey, which really doesn't serve them.
Right.
And neat thing about this survey as well is we get it back from people outside the city and inside the city. And we didn't used to be able to separate that. The last couple surveys we did, and that even gave us a better picture of what we need to do.
And again, there's two reasons we want to send it out to people outside the city. One is we consider them part of the city. They're our customers. They come in and use city facilities and streets and sidewalks and parks, and so it's important to get their information. They're also water customers, and that's what really facilitates the distribution of our survey is the water bills. And so
right.
We do get a kind of a close to 10,000, over 10,000 surveys out there, and we really do appreciate the feedback. And it's interesting because each year there seems to be consistencies from year to year in terms of what people are thinking and what they're seeing and what their concerns are.
The response rate changes a little bit as which one is the high concern and which one is a little bit lower, but it's very consistent on the things that people are most aware of and want repaired or have concerns about or feel more passionate about and think this is a great department in the city. They typically are the library, police, and fire, typically the top in the survey as far as what people like.
I think the recreation center started to move up.
Yeah, it did.
Once we got it completed and opened and people had a few years to use it, that's become real popular.
Yes, absolutely. And good. We like to see that.
And so typically, what are the low scores?
The low scores this year, and typically it's been zoning ordinance enforcement, you know, the junk cars in the yards, the weeds, we want that taken care of. It's also been our streets. Always there's at least one street, and I think everybody knows the middle of this year, the end of last year, we were working on Mingus Avenue. So we got a lot, that binged us quite badly. Even though it wasn't the city's project, we weren't the one managing it, it was purely ADOT and their contractors. The city's the one that gets binged because everybody thinks it's the city.
Yeah, and that did take a long time. And
yeah, it did.
I think we all suffered through that one, but hopefully the next phase will go much quicker.
Right, and I know council has talked with you, and we've arranged a different way for the payment to be distributed so that we can have all the control over it.
Yeah.
And we won't do that again.
You know, and again, not unusual to see the high rate, or what is it? The people are satisfied with predominantly our police, our fire, like you say, the library, the recreation center.
The bus system was a highly scoring this year.
Right. But that doesn't mean that the others scored low.
No.
People in general are very satisfied with city services. And when we begin to talk about streets and sidewalks and code enforcement, that was the importance of trying to divide out who was inside the city versus outside the city, because we didn't know whether they were talking about city streets or county streets, county code enforcement or city code enforcement.
Right.
And so that's what made it important.
And what also was really helpful by splitting it between the city, incorporated city, and the county's portion of the city, is it helps the county. We were able to give them that information. And we do when we get the surveys back. We give them the addresses when people have a complaint about my alley or whatever it might be, because people still, they live excuse me, in the incorporated city of Cottonwood, and they don't. And so this gets their problem rectified as well. Otherwise, it might never get taken care of.
And again, you know, everybody's got busy lives, so it is hard to get people to fill it out. And a lot of times, I think what we tend to get is probably more of those folks who may be retired, not working at the moment, and they have the time to fill them out and send them in. And so it would be nice to get a kind of a wider spectrum of people returning surveys, but
it did. And in fact, I think 65%, if I remember correctly, was individuals over 60.
Yeah.
And that's not our population. We have a high senior population, but not
it's
that
not
high.
That high. Yeah.
Because the way how many surveys got returned were the majority of senior citizens.
So let's go ahead and take our first break, and then we'll come back and begin to address kind of those consistent concerns that we hear from year to year. So come back and join us.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm here with our Vice Mayor, Kyla Allen, who has kind of managed our citizen satisfaction survey for several years, starting in 2010. And I thought what we would do is quickly kind of go through the list of concerns for each survey and kind of talk a little bit about what those concerns were and kind of how the city responded to alleviate those concerns or make some kind of an impact. And in 2012, the first concern was streets, the condition of streets, roadways. And again, we weren't 100% sure that they were referring primarily to city streets or if they lived in the Verde Villages, county streets. But nonetheless, I think it also coincided with what the council was hearing at the time.
Correct.
We had Mingus Avenue west of Willard that was in very poor condition.
Terrible.
12th Street was in poor condition. Mingus Avenue was east of Willard was in poor condition. And so since that time, the council has made it a priority. That we should put more and more effort, more and more money into streets and roadways. And you can probably think of the number of streets and sidewalks we've improved or replaced.
And we increased the budget significantly for those, and we actually made it a percentage of our annual fees rather than, let's say, $200,000. We made an actual percentage, and it increased it quite a bit.
Right. And so during that time, we have replaced most of Mingus, and we'll see the rest of it replaced beginning this next year, 2019.
12th Street?
12th Street has been replaced from Mingus Avenue all the way to Fur.
Mm-hmm.
10th Street was replaced.
Did we do Willard?
Willard was extended from Highway 89A, or actually I guess it would have been Cottonwood Street all the way to Fur.
Correct. That's
or
right.
Monte de Sor. No, was it Monte?
No, it's not Monte.
Yeah, it was one of those. But anyway, a lot of streets, a lot of sidewalks put in, and again, as new development occurs, we have street standards, sidewalk standards that they have to meet with each of those developments.
Right, in older developments, you might have had a 2.5 foot wide sidewalk, and now we desire a 4 to 6 foot sidewalk in width. That's what the council desires.
And so again, and this continues to be a theme from survey to survey about streets and sidewalks. Again, the council continues to put money into it, and not only in terms of new streets, but also streets and pavement maintenance. Trying to keep those streets that we do put in a good condition so they'll last us for many years.
And it's a significant expense, and it takes time. I know some people, and I didn't know personally, the length of time it takes from point A, when you're going to decide to redo a roadway, to do the design work and then get the contract and get the work going. That's a great amount of time. It's not
something that occurs overnight.
Pull your backhoe out and throw some gravel down. It doesn't work that way anymore. Yeah,
there's a tremendous amount of planning that goes into it, and then depending on the surface. Like 12th Street, we had to go in and essentially remove a large clay layer to make the road more stable. When we put in that new road. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Let's touch on that while we're here. The pulling up of part of the road, the adding texture to part of 12th Street because of the that top layer was actually oiling up. Was that correct?
Yeah, actually, we were probably a little bit ahead of our maintenance needs on 12th Street. So when they put the oil down, it didn't permeate down into the asphalt as much as it would have had it been an older street. And so we ended up with a thick layer of oil on top, which we didn't receive a lot of complaints about other than from our fire department because they have a very heavy fire engine, and they were sliding on the street. And so if they were doing that, we were concerned about safety, so we we milled that off, and we'll come back probably in the spring and put down a chip seal. And so it'll be a great road again once we get that through.
I got asked a lot of questions about that, so I appreciate you elaborating on that.
You know, and a lot of times people don't understand as well that there is a limited window of when you can put down asphalt and when you can put down chip seal. You need a certain temperature, a minimum of about 70 degrees before you start laying that down, and preferably you would like it warmer than that. And so during the winter months, we tend not to lay down as much asphalt or oil, and that's pretty consistent around the state, particularly here in the northern part of the state. So that does limit our ability to get street projects done during the winter. The other one that concern that came up in 2012, and this is still a concern, unfortunately, and that's we ended up having to cut back library hours during the recession, and it meant that we didn't require as many people at the library, and we lost about 12 positions during the recession. And so this is one of those areas where we still haven't been able to open up for those hours, and I think it's something that I know the vice mayor is very interested in, is trying to expand that.
Absolutely.
And there was a little bit of debate about whether libraries really were going to continue to have the demand that they've had in the past.
That's a concern because of the way we have access to such technology nowadays. People, we're leaning towards, well, the library is not going to be a valuable tool. It's become even a more valuable tool because not only do they provide the technology, but provide the education components for kids after school. For adults, they have meeting facilities, and they still have the books. So it's across the board, blew that conversation out of the water. It's definitely a needed item.
So that's something that hopefully this budget year, maybe we can get in the additional staff to open up for further hours on Monday, because I know that's a biggie. And I think consistently from survey to survey, there's always concerns about mostly water, and how much people have to pay for water, and the quality of the water. And let me first assure you that the water is safe. It's quality water. We have to meet very specific EPA standards and do regular tests, so it's safe, no doubt about it. But does it taste the best? No.
Not always. Sometimes
Not always.
It's great. Sometimes
some people like it and some people don't. It does tend to be very hard water, and so consequently, if you see those white mineral deposits, that's the hardness. And the way to address that is through a water softening system, or reverse osmosis helps as well, but
uses a lot of water to do it.
Yeah, it does, and again, it's not harmful. In fact, it probably gives you some calcium that may help you. I don't know.
I did want to mention that back in the 2012, there was also expressing a concern to combine our sewer water bills, and though it took us some time to get that done, we did get it done.
Yes, and now you get one bill as opposed to two.
Right.
And I think if you went back, even though we didn't have surveys back then, if you went back before the city purchased the private water companies, I think you would find that a large amount of the complaints about water back then was reliability. That, particularly during the summer months, customers were actually asked to cut down on water usage because there wasn't enough water in the system to support the demand.
What do you call that, a brownout, or for our water companies?
There were brownouts, particularly in the Verde villages, where they would shut off water to blocks as they went on, and it caused a problem. And a lot of people were concerned about that. That is not the problem now. We have more than enough water. We have very redundant systems, so.
I have to sing the city's praises on that. That is something the city was forward thinking on, in that we even help our neighboring communities when they lack in water. we can open it and get them water to, I think Haskell Springs is one of the areas
Right.
that kind of on an annual basis they lose some of the water
Yeah.
to their customers. And what a great community that does that and
Yeah.
is able to plan for that.
And so now, very unusual when, if we have a line break or something like that, very seldom does it impact people because we can move water around, shut off valves, turn on others to make sure that nobody ever sees the outage.
You don't even know that there's a problem.
Right. So, very good. In 2014, again, there were concerns expressed about water rates.
And then this time it
not
was
surprising.
majority was outside the city limits, and,
Right.
and it was this year as well.
Yeah, and that was shortly after the, I believe yep, absolutely, when the city council adopted differential rates, where the cost of providing water in the city was less expensive than providing it outside the city, and the council felt that it wasn't fair to charge people inside the city to subsidize water service outside the city. So it was a fair thing to do, particularly if you live inside the city. Now, those outside the city, they don't particularly like it, but it's not something that is unusual. Most cities across the state who provide water outside charge a higher rate for those outside the city.
Right.
So.
Right. Makes sense.
And we can continue to hear that. And again, the desire for code enforcement, an issue that we have worked on strenuously inside the city to try and improve the quality of our neighborhoods. And we looked at weed abatements. One of the big things we worked on was graffiti. The requirement is to get graffiti removed in 24 hours, and I think we've been fairly successful at that.
And if you see it out there, you let us know.
Yeah, please let us
If we
know.
don't know that it's there, we can't address it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we continue to work on that. And again, in 2014, the desire for the library. So we got to get that one.
Those three, we
taken
got
care
to
of.
take care of them.
Let's go ahead and take our next break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the concerns from the latest survey and also what people like about the city. So come back and join us.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Nicer day. Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm here with Vice Mayor Kyla Allen, and we're talking about our citizen satisfaction surveys. We talked about the history, we talked about the results of 2012, 2014, and now we skipped a year, but 2017, we got another survey out there, and again, this one was pretty extensive, and we were talking about concerns. And so again, one of the things that came up was police patrols, making sure that police were seen on our major collectors, particularly related to traffic violations. We're beginning to see a little more traffic now, and which in a way is a good thing because I think it's an indication that our economy is doing well. But on the other hand, not everybody obeys the laws and drives safely, so We try and get the police out there as much as possible, and we'll continue to do that.
And if I'm correct, that was about 50-50 of the respondents. So we're talking the Verde villages and the county areas would probably like to see more patrolling in their neighborhoods as well.
And again, there's probably a lot more police presence here in the city than out in the county, because the county has extensive areas to patrol. Again, concerns over water quality and water rates, mostly from citizens outside the city. Drainage problems, flooding. We've experienced a little more rain events, particularly during the summer here recently, and people are concerned about that.
And it wasn't just rain events. It was probably a whole month of rain in one night. We were getting really heavy events, not just spread out across the summer like we usually had. So it was significant. And
the reality is we've actually gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in flood grants, and we continue to work on projects to try and make sure that we're as safe as possible. And again, a lot of this has to do with new development and making sure new development does those things that as they create hard space that doesn't absorb water, they've got to have retention ponds, those kind of things to slow down the flow of water down to the river. The other thing, not surprising, after Arizona court decision here a few years back, it seems like not only Cottonwood but every other city across the state just had an explosion of panhandlers standing on corners. And
explain that a little bit about that, so that people understand. It's not the law enforcement's not doing their job. It's they have a right to be out there.
They have a right to be out there according to the courts. It's a free speech issue, as long as they're on public right-of-way. Now, certainly if they're on private property, that private property owner can ask them not to be there. And a lot of that has happened. Our police department, our police chief has done a great job of dealing with this issue in terms of some of the programs he's created. And we've tried to educate people that it's really not a good idea to contribute to these people, because you don't know what you're giving them money for, potentially, and a lot of times it's for a destructive lifestyle, to support addictions, those kind of things, and so find an appropriate charity to give to versus handing money out to people standing on the corner. And quite honestly, we found a lot of people who really weren't homeless. They were out there making good money.
We found the one with the fake oxygen tube
and fake baby and
fake baby in the stroller. We have organizations in the city who help people who are truly homeless.
Right.
If you're really concerned, give to those organizations, whether it's Catholic Charities, Verde Valley Homeless Coalition, the police department, Old Town Mission. There's just
Cottonwood Cares, which is one of the programs. Yeah. So help us out there. That will cut down on this. And like I say, it's not. I was down in Scottsdale this weekend. Very, very prevalent down there as well. People standing on corners. Issue about enforcing weed laws, and that's something that really in Cottonwood is based on fire safety, but it is something that we're looking at changing the codes to make it also part of aesthetics. That if you got big long weeds growing in your yard, you need to cut them down and keep them maintained, just because it looks good. And again, the importance of this is having nice looking neighborhoods where people feel safe, they feel like they live in a nice neighborhood, and it helps keep property values up. Certainly if you own a home and you live next door to somebody who doesn't maintain their property, it lowers your property values as well. So this is an important one. Need more street lighting, and that one's a little tough because, again, I don't know whether that's people out in the villages which have very few street lights, or whether that's somebody inside the city. And we're also now a dark sky city.
Right.
And so we're very judicious in terms of outdoor lighting. so that we can continue to enjoy the dark skies.
And our beautiful stars.
Yeah.
You definitely makes a difference.
And a lot of times people see this as a safety issue, and I appreciate that, but I can assure you I feel extremely safe walking around this city at any time of the day or night. It is a very safe city. Like to see more recycling places in town. Again, I think a lot of people don't realize that the city does provide recycling at our transfer station, and really a wide range of things that are recycled up there. So please give it a shot and try. And again, Cottonwood hours or library hours was a big one.
Yeah, and expanding and needing more parking.
Yeah. You know, I think the other thing to remember too is not everybody is negative. In fact, we get a lot of really positive comments from people, people recognizing that the streets are getting better. I love living in Cottonwood. Cottonwood Water Department is awesome. That was probably a water department employee, I think. Cottonwood is a great community to live in.
I love this one because of its inclusivity instead of exclusivity like other cities.
It's one of the things that convinced me I wanted to live here was people were just so kind.
And I have to say, when I was sitting at the park, the kids' park, during the 4th of July, we had people coming in that didn't live in the city that commented to me, I love coming to Cottonwood because it's a family community. I come in here, I feel like I'm part of the community, not like other communities where you feel like you're an outsider coming in. And that was a really nice thing to hear.
Yeah. I always like to say, nobody's a stranger in Cottonwood.
Not in Cottonwood, very good.
We all know each other. You know, and last but not least, because we're running out of time, is when we do get concerns and there's a phone number, some way to contact the person who has that concern, I personally have tried to call everybody that expresses a concern and just talk to them about it. Get some more insight, and also explain what the city is or isn't doing. And sometimes I have some really amazing conversations with people, and I really enjoy it. Sometimes people are a little grumpy, and I understand that as well, but it doesn't have to happen just during survey time. If you have a concern, please call City Hall, call me, the city manager, call one of the council people. You know, just let us know what your concern is and let us see if we can address it and help you out. With that, I'll go ahead and close. Thanks to the Vice Mayor for being here.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to everybody who responds to these surveys. We take them very seriously. We try to respond and correct those things that you find concerning and of importance. And so continue to help us out by letting us know what you think. Thanks for joining us on Inside Cottonwood, and we'll see you next time.